For the next 30 minutes, we will explore the unexplained. From mysteries beyond our galaxy to ghostly phenomena in our own backyard, we will dive into our psychic abilities and explore everything from conspiracies to the just plain weird. Welcome to 30-odd minutes. If the truth is out there, we will find it. But only by sheer accident.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. It's great to be with you. You are Oddballs. I'm Jeff Belanger. We're all rather strange. And tonight's show is about technology, paranormal inventions. But we're going to talk about a much broader topic, really, ITC, Instrumental Transcommunication, the whole idea of using technology to communicate with the other side. Pretty cool, huh? Glad you're here, because if you weren't here, this would be kind of boring. We'd be talking to nobody, or just cameras. I don't know. We'll get through this. Want to remind everybody, if you're watching live, the live stream on our website at 30oddminutes.com, we do have a chat room, and you can jump in. There's lots to do at 30oddminutes.com. You can watch all of our past shows. This one, you can watch all the ones we did before. You can download them on iTunes, all for free. You can sign up for our newsletter, too. Do that. It's right there on the left-hand side. Put in your email address. On the day of the show, we'll email you a message from us, an odd message that will tell you who our guest is and what's coming up, stuff to look forward to. But if you're in the chat room, Sarah and Rob are eagerly waiting. How are you, Sarah and Rob?
Awesome.
I'm all right, Jeff.
All right. Awesome. Good. They're watching the chat room. You can ask questions of our guest, our crew, and we will try to pass them up to you. We got some emails this week. We got a few, actually. I wanted to read a couple to you. Check this out. Hey, Oddballs! 3 exclamation points. Love the show. Love is a strong word. We appreciate it. The intro is brilliant. Keep it coming.
Indeed.
Keep up the great work. Hope to see werewolves featured soon. We're working on that.
Yeah.
Stay odd. P.S. Matt Moniz is a babe.
Oh.
Signed, Odd Faye. Odd Faye. That's coming from a werewolf. Odd Faye, let me tell you something. Tell us something we don't know. Matt Moniz is indeed a babe, and we get to see him every week right here. All right, another email. Hey, Jeff and the gang, loving 30-odd minutes. I am down here in New Zealand.
Yeah, all right.
New Zealand, we got Kiwi fans. And there is seriously a lack of any kind of paranormal/supernatural shows, so appreciating yours a lot. Love, Amber, and Tauranga, New Zealand. How exotic are we, reaching all the way to New Zealand?
Down under.
Hot.
Yeah, that's sort of near down under, a little north of down under. But thank you so much for writing in. Keep those emails coming. Not just compliments. Send us the hate mail too. We'll read it. In fact, we could have more fun with that. So don't be shy. All right, ITC, Instrumental Transcommunication. The concept goes back to the 1970s, although its roots date back centuries prior. We've done shows in the past on Ouija boards, where you use a board with letters and numbers on it to try to communicate with the other side. This takes that to a technological difference, where what we're doing is trying to bridge that gap using technology. People are using telephones, they're using all kinds of other things, and actually I'm just getting it in my ear here that we have a field report ready. We do have the live feed ready. All right, actually we're going to cut live, excuse me a minute, to Mike Brody out there in the field. Mike, can you hear me?
Hey, thanks, Jeff. We're here with the internationally famous Chip Coffee. Chip Coffee, what is your opinion on blankets that have sleeves?
Blankets that have sleeves. Aren't those called Snuggies?
I think so.
You asked me to touch your Snuggie yesterday and then sign it. I was a little unnerved by that, but I did it. So, for everyone to know, I have actually touched and signed Mike Brody's Snuggie.
And you did it with style.
And grace. I washed my hands afterwards, though. I washed my hands.
All right. Back to you, Jeff. Thanks, Chip.
Thank you, Mike Brody. Thanks for that important field report that we just cut live to from the paranormal conference that took place in Cooperstown, New York. Amazing stuff. Riveting.
Satellite hookup was great.
Yeah, I know. And, quite frankly, sometimes you do need to get interrupted by your director for something important like that. So thank you. Thank you, Andy White in the back. Good job. Everyone on the ball tonight. All right, Instrumental Transcommunication. Can we use technology to bridge that gap? People are claiming telephones, computers, fax machines, you name it, are all doing that. Well, our guest tonight, this is great. We've got a real man of science here. He's the perfect guy to talk about some of his own paranormal inventions he's using to get some amazing results. We've got video that's going to knock your socks off. Just stay with us. Andy Coppock, he's a research scientist for the biomedical community with a background in mechanical engineering, laser photonics, physics, and quantum mechanics. His quest into paranormal investigation has led to the development of new instrumentation and testing criteria for paranormal investigations. He's applying typical engineering and scientific testing methods to validate or explain paranormal phenomena. Basically, this guy went to MIT, he's really smart, and when he noticed his workshop space seemed to be haunted, he applied what he knows to try to figure it all out. You've seen him on the History Channel, you've seen him on Ghost Adventures on the Travel Channel, and tonight he's all yours, live from Los Angeles, California. But before you put your hands together, we're going to introduce our own paranormal invention, the Oddbot 3000. Anybody can make a machine that communicates with the dead. We've developed something that can channel the living. So let's see if Oddbot's working. Oddbot 3000, can you channel Andy Coppock? Oh, hey, it looks like Andy.
Hey, guys.
Andy, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
This is amazing. We hear you fine. Oddbot 3000 is working perfectly, lighting up, flashing, and channeling the living person, Andy Coppock, from Los Angeles, California.
This is fantastic. I need one of those here.
Right. Well, he's one of a kind. And there's a lot of duct tape involved. I don't know if you could afford the duct tape fees alone, are astronomical. but we love them. Hey, so tell me, how long have you been in this space where your shop is?
Coming up on just over 2 years now.
All right, and what do you make there?
We make lasers and develop technology for creating artificial heart valve parts and stents, neurovascular stents, and mainly stuff for the biomedical community.
Okay, so lasers. Now I know you get this question all the time, but please forgive me. Have you ever been working on your lasers and gotten, like, I don't know, distracted? Maybe like a cell phone call came in, and you're standing right in front of them, and I don't know, you feel a warm sensation where you don't usually feel a warm sensation. Has anything like that ever happened?
Dude, oh no. Oh, you did? Yeah, actually, no texting while aiming the laser in the shop.
Yeah.
That's cardinal rule right there.
Did you recall sending me that
Thank
photo?
You, Jeff. That's awesome. That's awesome. You're a great guy.
Well, we're just glad you're okay. We're glad you're. And actually, I just wanted to prove that you indeed make lasers, and you know, there was your proof right there. And you know, you got to be careful.
If you don't have accidents like that, you don't make lasers. So.
That's right. That's right. Okay, so you're in this space 2 years. When do you start noticing that something weird is going on?
Actually, it was a funny story. Initially, I didn't notice anything was going on, and the former tenant came to pick up his mail. He shows up and was asking me, geez, how's the building working out for you? And I didn't know what he was talking about. And he further went into it and said, you don't work at night, do you, for God's sakes? What about the screams and the pounding and the bangs? And at this point, I thought he was kind of off of his nut, and he went away. But the story came out where actually they moved their company because they couldn't keep a night crew in the building. They actually had to go and present and pitch to their corporate office that they had to move because the building was haunted, and they did. So given the weight of that, I thought, I wonder what it does sound like at night. I wonder what it does sound like, when I'm not here and everything. So I threw a digital recorder out into the shop and just started recording things like I saw that they do on the shows, just for my own benefit, just to see.
Right.
And played back, one of the first couple nights that I threw it out there, and it was shocking. It was shocking. Not what you would expect to hear from an empty industrial building.
And how old is this building?
It's not that old. It's funny. It was built in 1986.
Right.
Really nothing noteworthy happened in the building itself. The land that it's built on is next to, and the surrounding area was an Indian burial ground where they uncovered some mass graves it was a little disturbing, the stories behind all of that. And there was a huge oil refinery across the street, Fletcher Oil,
right,
that exploded, and there were a lot of people that were burned and hurt in that explosion. So, there's been some some tragedy and drama around the building somewhat, but specifically here now, and it's the least haunted looking place you could ever imagine. It's just a cement tilt-up building in the middle of an industrial park.
Right, yeah,
So,
and see, that's what's interesting to me, because there's no rules to this. There's no rules to hauntings, right? It doesn't have to be an old creepy castle. It could be any kind of situation. But now, did you have an interest in the paranormal before moving into this building?
well, I mean, I watched the shows.
Right.
I wasn't an avid watcher of the shows until things started happening, and then I was really curious on how do they go about doing all of this stuff. But no, not really. I mean, I've studied physics and quantum physics for 20 some odd years, and from that aspect, sure, I guess I've been in the field or doing similar research, not necessarily with ghosts, but with energy forms and different types of strange fringe physics. But to apply that to something that could actually reach out and touch you or hear a noise or one thing or another was kind of fascinating, and that's what drove me to further look into the building and see what I could figure out.
Yeah, right. And so you set up a security camera, correct?
I did. After we heard the noises in the building, I thought, man, I've really got to see what is causing that, or hopefully I could see what was causing it. And my initial thought wasn't a ghost. I swore that someone was breaking into the building. It really sounded like someone was inside, rambling around inside of the building. And there's a lot of equipment out there and a lot of expensive equipment. And I was kind of terrified at that point. So we installed the video cameras, security system, motion sensors, all that kind of good stuff to see if we could get into it.
Well, let's actually roll that. We're going to talk while it's playing. So this is a mounted security system. Watch the broom, folks, in the upper left-hand corner. This is 7 frames per second, so it's basically taking 7 pictures every 1 second. And you're watching the broom. See, you can see it's already starting to move. What we've done is we've strung together a couple of clips that Andy sent to me earlier today. And so no one's in the shop at this time, right, Andy?
No, the building's empty. It was in the afternoon. You can see some of the light still coming through from the skylight above, but the building was empty.
All right, excuse me 1 second, Andy. This is the second clip. Watch the sunglasses in the lower left corner. You can see they're actually already starting to move. So, sorry, go on, Andy.
Yeah, what's moving now there's a pair of laser safety glasses. They're plastic.
Right.
And the table that they're sitting on is a vibration isolation table. It's really super heavy, and it's made to absorb vibration. So even if there were an earthquake going on and you were sitting on that table, you wouldn't feel any of the motion.
And these things are moving around, caught on your own security camera. I mean,
they're just moving along. Yep.
Yeah, right. And now you're seeing they're actually right to the kind of the center of that table and making a little leap there. I mean, incredible stuff. Now,
what was interesting is on the
I'm
audio,
sorry, Andy, I'm sorry, one more
noises.
second here. This is your night vision. I don't mean to interrupt you, but watch the wall on the right-hand side. Boom. I mean, stuff is going on all the time, so please continue. I don't mean to interrupt.
Right now, some of the sounds that we recorded and we picked up with the recorders at night, we'd hear this little bang, 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 or some clicks or scuffling and scooting and whatnot. And the bang, bang, bang matched the broom sound, and that's normally where I set the broom at the end of the day. And it was exactly the same sound, same amount of bangs that took place there that we recorded many times. And the goggles scooting on the table, there were lots of sounds that sounded similar to that. So it was just really interesting to see something move and nothing was moving it. It was fascinating. And then that, along with the stories from the previous tenant, it started gaining more weight the farther it went.
Yeah, sorry, we're not ready for that video yet. Sorry, guys. No, but at one point, do you start to build devices to try to capture this stuff?
Well, once it started getting interesting, I guess from my viewpoint, which was a little bit different than the shows and the way that they went about doing their investigations, I started applying more so scientific method to trying to figure out what was going on, be able to capture some of this stuff and then validate it later, or figure out if I could recreate the situations and the things that were going on during what we captured. so I could just understand what types of energy were required to do some of those things. So given that we're looking for something that's unknown and trying to capture that or measure it with equipment that's predetermined for something else is kind of difficult. So that's when I got into building more so purpose-built equipment that was specifically designed to look outside of our normal ranges and hear and see things that we can't.
Right. Well, there's a whole electromagnetic spectrum out there that we know. Well, what you're seeing right now, folks, is just a little tiny sliver called the visible light spectrum. That's what we can see. There's all this other stuff floating around, from AM waves, which are miles long in wavelength, to little gamma rays that are so close together it's almost immeasurable, infrared, ultraviolet, microwave, X-ray, all that stuff is in this spectrum. And so one of the theories, of course, is that if ghosts are real and existing, spirit energy or whatever, maybe it's moving around in some other part of that spectrum that we can't see with our naked eye, and usually not with regular cameras, which are also mainly capturing the visible light spectrum. So
exactly.
Yeah, so you start developing this stuff. Let's start with the infrasonic recording geophone, which is very scientific sounding. Well done on the name, sir.
Well, geophones, the actual sensor that's inside, they've been around for a long time, and they're used for monitoring seismic activity and different things around oil drilling sites and whatnot. The application here was a lot of times during an investigation we'd ask for, knock 3 times on the wall, that kind of a thing, if something's there. And the question came up, what if that knock was so subtle we weren't really hearing it or seeing it? I wanted something a little bit more sensitive. So we applied the geophone sensor into just a simple device, that would sit someplace and illuminate with lights that would respond to the vibration. Then we further found out that some of the recordings that we were getting, there was potentially something outside or below where we could hear, and I wanted to be able to pick that up and hear it in conjunction with the vibration. So we added a recording capability that will pick up down into infrasonic levels below 20 hertz. And a lot of the recordings that we get, a lot of the EVPs and whatnot, there's a lot of information below where we typically hear in the low frequency stuff that we can pull out of this, speed up a little bit to where we can hear it, and we're getting a lot of information that's captured there.
All right, well, I want to move quickly to the EMF Induction Amplifier. This is something that I've seen in action. We were actually we were at a conference in the belly of the Queen Mary, the haunted ship in Long Beach, California. We were down in the cargo hold. There it is. Look at that. There's the induction. Okay, so we're down there, and this was pretty amazing, folks. So we're in a cargo hold of the Queen Mary. It's dark. It's kind of warm. There's, it's very quiet, and Morse code was coming out through this fuzzy, distorted sound from the induction amplifier. I mean, crystal clear Morse code. Like coming from someone who really knows what they're doing, or from a machine. And then you're also getting voices and all kinds of other things. What was the thought behind this?
Well, the original thought behind this, and boy, there's a lot of controversy behind it. But the original thought wasn't necessarily to hear voices or capture Morse code. That was all completely an accident. This was used as a means to identify noisy EMF sources inside of a room before an investigation,
right.
So we could find out, where different contamination was coming from in the room. Things like light ballasts and doorbell transformers and stuff that are difficult to find. You walk by them with a K2 meter and they go off and everyone thinks they're a ghost. Well, I wanted to know where those sources of EMF noise were before an investigation, so started using an induction amplifier that initially was just a tracer probe that you can buy at Home Depot. Then I started getting some different responses and hearing different things, and my thought process at the time was potentially the voices that we pick up as an EVP are maybe an electromagnetic field manipulation or modulation that's imparting that voice. And if that's the case, then I should be able to pick that up in the same manner that the microphone circuitry picks it up in your recorder with the same type of an amplifier. So I made it much more sensitive, started changing some of the circuitry inside, some of the antenna characteristics to more so grab that energy and reproduce it as a voice, or potentially as a voice.
Right.
And the more that we did it, the better the results got, and this thing has had so many iterations over the last year. It's insane. But yeah, right now we're getting some pretty cool results.
And we actually have an audio CD. I've got a couple of tracks to play that you sent us earlier today. Take a listen. This is some of the audio that was captured using this device. And so you're hearing voices come out of this. There's the sound. Yeah. So this machine goes through all kinds of cycles. You heard a little example right there where it's formulating voices out of this chaos, right? Out of this chaotic EMF field. Actually, Andy, we do have a question for you in our chat room. Sorry it took so long to get to you, Sarah. What's going on?
No problem. Hey, Andy, April wants to know what your favorite piece of technical equipment is and why, as far as investigating the paranormal, what your favorite piece is.
I think that's evolving now into the full spectrum camera work that I'm doing. Hearing stuff and seeing things that you can see with your eye was neat, but actually seeing some of the energy forms in their pure state, seeing what's actually moving those goggles and whatnot, that's been pretty cool. So I think the full spectrum camera's been my favorite so far.
What a great segue. Let's talk about that. So the whole idea is that we have this whole electromagnetic spectrum. How does one build a camera that can see all of it? There it is right there. There's your full spectrum camera. But how do you see something that's invisible?
First, you mortgage your house.
Right.
Take out a big loan and find somebody that builds lasers for a living.
I know a guy.
It's typically what the intent of the camera was, just to see outside of our normal range, and this is really nothing new in itself. Just all of the differences that go into this camera allow it to do what we do, and there's a lot of different things that it does at the same time. First, it allows us to see down into the UV spectrum somewhat. UV spectrum drops way, way, way down low, and we stop being able to see visible light just below 400 nanometers. This camera captures down to about 175, somewhere in there, so way below where we can typically see. Now, any information that it catches down there, it turns into a color and throws it back onto the screen so that we can see it. Just because you take a picture of something invisible and show to someone, it's still invisible unless you turn it back into a color.
Right.
So that was one of the problems. And then the other thing this camera does, it uses light amplification. My intent with that, I hate changing the environment when I'm trying to observe something. And by adding IR light or fill light or one thing or another, you're actually changing the scene. You're flooding it with all of this IR energy, and then expecting the same thing to happen that normally would without that. And it's just another source of contamination that I wanted to eliminate. So the camera uses light amplification technology so that we don't have to supply very much supplemental light, if any, in a situation, and it just grabs the scene as it would be.
Right. And so just to clarify a little bit, IR is infrared, and it's just beyond, if you picture a rainbow that goes Roy G. Biv, right? Red, orange, yellow,
Right.
green, blue, indigo, violet. Ultraviolet is just beyond violet. Infrared is just beyond red, right out of the visible light spectrum and into the rest of the electromagnetic spectrum. And so the whole idea is that maybe what we're seeing is that sometimes these things flit just on the very edge of what we can see, which may explain why some digital cameras, depending on their software, may pick up some of this stuff. Why night vision, which is seeing a little bit beyond the visible light spectrum, sometimes picks up this stuff. So you're getting all that in one shot.
All that in one shot, right. There's some other tricks to that. Even the material that the lens is made of has to be special. The focusing characteristics of the lens have to be different so that you can focus the shorter wavelengths. And there's quite a bit to it. There's some cameras on the market now. Unfortunately, they don't do what they say, and if they're not expensive, unfortunately, I question whether they work very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's, hey, you get what you pay for, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, we've got some video clips of your full spectrum camera, and this is pretty amazing. If we could get this rolling, whenever you guys are ready, we're going to keep talking over it. Yeah, there we go. So this is the carriage house at the Spalding Inn in New Hampshire, correct?
Correct.
Which is owned, of course, by Jason and Grant of Ghost Hunters, TAPS fame. And tell us what we're seeing here. You see this light moving around in this hallway that is indeed empty, correct?
It is empty. Camera was on, running in this empty hallway, basically, and this energy form that was some form of ultraviolet light. It almost seemed like it was moving out of that bedroom and
Right.
down the stairway.
And now this is your shop again?
This is inside of my shop. I'm trying to see which one this is. Oh, this is this was during an investigation. I was out in the shop, and it was getting late, and I was sort of saying, if there's something here, do something. Do it right now in front of my face. And I didn't see this,
Wow,
but
look at
that
that.
was taking place right in front of my face.
And yeah, so this energy getting converted into light. Now this is amazing, folks. We're going to play this twice. Look to the left of the tree. It looks like a person walking away wearing a hat. The person on the right is the only living person in this scene, correct, Andy?
Correct.
Correct. That person that you
was-
just saw walk out from the left, we're going to show it one more time. Here it is again. That person on the left was not there, wasn't visible to anyone, and you'll see it walks right through the person on the right, who is indeed a living person.
Now that flash initially was a big, huge flash of, again, UV light. If it shows up in purple when the rest of the frame is in grayscale, that's ultraviolet. And that was the only. There was only one living person in front of that camera at the time.
God, it's stuff like that just kind of shakes you to the core. You say, my goodness, especially, knowing the parties involved, you say, what was that? What could cause something like that to walk through the environment, look like a perfectly, normal living male wearing a hat and walked right by that other person? Incredible
Sure.
stuff coming in. Do we have any other questions in the chat room tonight? I'm sure there's a ton.
There's some goofy ones too, like who's your favorite Doctor Who character?
Yeah, Doctor Who. Which one? Who's your favorite character?
Wow. I think Doctor Who needs to have this guy that's got a robot body right now on the show.
See, we are cutting edge. Yeah, well, that's what happens in the chat room. We get all kinds of questions. So what's next? What else are you working on?
Working on a lot of stuff right now. Trying to improve the electromagnetic sound amplification equipment so that we can better hear some of these voices and maybe pick up on more of these messages. It's funny that some of the latest messages have been actually giving me direction in how to improve the equipment. So we're kind of following those things through to see how that plays out. I'm always working on the video stuff and the full spectrum equipment, making it better and higher resolution, working better in darker places. But that's all as the budget can afford. So.
Right, heading further and further down the rabbit hole into quantum physics, into all kinds of other things, and that's what this is all about. I mean, we're exploring the unexplained, and it's interesting that you say that you seem to be getting direction through some of your devices. George Meek, who really, I guess, would be the father of ITC, Instrumental Transcommunication, was taking direction from the other side through his Spiricom machine. So this is a tradition that goes back quite a long way, and really interesting that it's still happening. And a guy from MIT, you go. Well done, sir. Working on this. Does the school ever call asking for a donation, saying, hey, is there a chair for you at MIT for this?
Well, there used to be a chair, but I got in a lot of trouble back in school. There were a few things we don't want to talk about. So
right.
So yeah. No, it's all good.
All right. Well, good stuff. Andy Coppock, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are pretty much out of time here, but want to say thank you for joining us. Until next time, folks, stay odd. All right. Boy, that does go quick, doesn't it?